कर्नल राजेंद्र गुप्ता का एक जो क्वेश्चन है जो मैंने आपको भी भेजा था कि ये ऑफ कोर्स खाली पेट्रोल इंडस्ट्री से रिलेटेड नहीं है, ये कि जनरल इकोनॉमी का एक्चुअली ये क्वेश्चन है। और उनका सवाल ये था कि जो बड़ी बड़ी इंडस्ट्रीज हैं इनको जो लोन देते हैं बैंक्स, कई बार वो पे नहीं करने पाते, इवन देन दे आर नॉट पेनलाइज्ड। और जो छोटे लोग होते हैं जैसे फार्मर्स होते हैं या छोटे बिजनेसमैन होते हैं, एमएसएमई होते हैं, उनको गवर्नमेंट पेनलाइज करती है। तो मैं आपका कमेंट इस पे चाहूँगा कि ये क्या सिस्टम है, मतलब ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है, और अगर ऐसा होता है तो क्यों होता है, और कैसे रेमेडियल मेजर्स गवर्नमेंट ले सकती है।
Actually this is a very common question and people are having this queries ki bhai so much amount is waive off and other thing. Before going into this particular question, let me first say how the bank reforms started. During Mr. Raghuram Rajan, Dr. Rajan, when he was the governor of Reserve Bank governor in 2012 and so, when the Indian position was coming out of that shock of the sudden change in the US dollar and other thing, our banking system was not so clear, not so clean. What was happening? Banks were having a lot of loan which was given, but it was not recorded or reflected openly in the system. Now, to give an example, I had given let's say I am a bank and I had given 100 rupees loan in 10 different companies, out of which 7 are giving me back regularly, 2 are not giving me at all, and 1 is going into the pool of the third position where they are also defaulting. But what we were doing, we were keep on showing them receivable, receivable, receivable. So my balance sheet was very good. I'm saying, okay, I had given a loan of 100 rupees, receivable is 130 rupees, including interest and other thing. So I'm in a very good positive, and it's showing a very goody picture to all the people who were looking into the balance sheet because there's nothing wrong. What Dr. Raghuram Rajan has asked, no. He said, if the loan or borrower is not giving you interest or paying back 2 quarter or certain quarter, you have to classify them into non-performing assets. Otherwise, this was a very vague kind of a thing. There was no clear-cut things, and banks were as per their convenience or external factor and the things, but they were not reflecting them in a proper identifying into a parameter that they are converting from a good loan to a non-performing assets. Once they started doing it, you must have seen there was a sudden change in the banking, and many of the banks were having a very negative impact on the ratings and other things. But it was a good decision during Dr. Rajan time, and in 2012-13, this thing was he pushed it and he got it done, and all banks started after a certain period. If borrower is not giving, so they have to give it back. But during this period, Malia and all those things, big defaulters were running away, going here, there, or managing it well. So when the new government came in 2014, this was the biggest one of the problem. You have identified, but our normal process was taking a much longer time to recover or go for action, because you start taking a court action after lower court to higher court to Supreme Court, and it takes decades and decades, and then it was very difficult to get money back from the defaulters. Willful defaulter, I will say. I will not say other thing, but there are some genuine defaulters, but willful defaulters were taking advantage of the system, and it was very difficult for bank to get it. So in 2016, Mr. Jaitley introduced a bill, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which is called IBC 2016. Since it was not, fully approved from all the house here and there, so it was the IBC code, but it started in 2016 with a clear guideline that once a company or the borrower has been identified as not performer and other things, they will go to the IBC. IBC is having a 10 members committee from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Law, and RBI, and regulator was there. And then within certain period, this process should be completed, recovery process. So in 2016, it was NBC's 180 days. But at 2019, when Act was passed and because government has also learned some different process. So it was changed to 330 days. So within this 330 days period, insolvency period process is to be completed. Now, इसमें advantage ये हुआ कि with this clear-cut guideline and other things, now the judiciary process and since it become a law and other things, so interference or the public were taking undue advantage of the law, which was reduced. It was only left to the higher courts, not to the every court to go and take stay here and adjournment and other thing, because within time period it has to be reduced. Now I'm coming to this act has enabled lender, means financial institute, mainly banks and other financial institute, to take action against the defaulters who are not paying their dues, whichever is due. Now, earlier it was easy, as I said, ki I'm taking advantage, but now after this law, IBC Act, it become very difficult for them. So what government or banks were doing, they were not waiving off. What they were doing, they were categorizing this kind of a loan, which is the defective or difficult or non-performing assets, and not showing them as a receivable fully. So that you and me, if I'm looking at the bank balance sheet, I know, okay, out of 100 rupees, 10 rupees is non-receivable. Okay, so now you can take a call, informed decision, whether I should invest in this bank or I should go with this bank or I should go with the other bank. So this is giving a good confidence to the consumer as well as to the people who are putting money into these financial institutes, or even to the rating agencies, because based on this, they were rating these banks and other things. So they were getting loan at a lower rate or higher rate depending upon their balance sheet. So this helped the banks, this helped the financial institute by cleaning their balance sheet. So this was the part. Now, once IBC Act come into picture, I will give you two, three examples, not much. Earlier, SR Steel was one of the main company. It was having a loan of around $6.4 billion, which they were not able to pay at that time, which is roughly, as per them, 490 billion rupees. Okay. समय के terms के हिसाब से banks went into IBC 2017, and December 2019 decision was taken and it was handed over to SR Mittal, and they recovered against $6.4 billion, $5.8 billion. Okay. So against 490 billion rupees, 420 billion rupees came back to the lenders, which otherwise was not possible to get it in such a short period from the defaulters. When this process started, these promoters, they were in a position to meet this thing, or some reason, they also started, say, okay, no, I will come back, I will pay you principal, I will pay you this, because the rules were such that no, you can't come back, you can't bid for it. Once you have not done your work, you will be penalized, you cannot take back your industry back. Okay. Second case was Bhushan Steel. They were also having $5.8 billion, something like, say, 440 billion rupees. And again, July 2017, lender started that IBC process. And in May 18, in a year time, Tata Steel took over that thing. And against $5.4 billion was returned back to the lenders.
ये एक क्वेश्चन बड़ा नेचुरली आता है कि आपने फॉर एग्जांपल किसी को $5 बिलियन का लोन है, फिर आपने पूरे प्रोसेस के थ्रू आपने रिकवर कर लिया 4.8 बिलियन, तो ये जो बीच का है ये कहाँ से निकलेगा? Who is going to pay for that?
Okay, another option. Earlier, what was the option? Earlier we were not getting G at all. Earlier system was that the people were declaring and default at the same time. You are not able to recover anything because the process was so long. By the time banks, 20 years, 30 years, filers are not available, the officer retired and all those things. By the time things reaches, you are not in a position to prove any of the thing, and you are losing 100% of your money in most of the cases. It's leave small people. I'm not talking of the people who had given 1,000 rupees loan or 10,000 rupees. That's not the case. I'm talking of people who are taking thousands of crore loan. So it was total wiped out. And even after 20 years, 30 years, you are not able to. So now what you are doing, okay, by the time, say their property, they have siphoned it out, their machineries, they have taken it out. So whatever on the paper you are having a, let's say, mortgage, a building, by the time you get it after 20 years, its value is almost not even 1/50th or 1/100th of that money. So against a loan of 100 rupees, we are not able to recover even 2 rupees or 5 rupees. Okay, because of time, you are running for 30 years, 20 years, and then by the time in between he's died or he has changed or he has given the will or he has changed the paper, that machinery has gone out and machinery is replaced. And so nothing is there. You, by the time banks took over another thing, there's hardly anything which you can recover from them. Because of the time period, it takes 20 years, 30 years, 10 years to recover that. Once this time frame was given 180 days to 330 days or something like that, and you are not in a point, and now during this period, it's not only the time, it's taken over by your experts. Means that company or the property or the project is not run by the promoter, it is run by the ICBA appointed regulator and managers. So they run that business during this period. So you can't, it is not so easy to siphon out all those things which is there. So things which were not even 5% or 10% recovery of the total value, you are in a position to recover more than 40, 50. As of now, which we are having around 3,130 billion rupees worth of 7 cases. I am talking only 7 cases. जो आपके friend ने बताया ना 3 लाख करोड़ का जो लोन था, उनके केसेस में रिकवरी हो गई है 1,783 बिलियन रुपीस. मतलब 3 लाख के अगेंस्ट में आपने 178,000 करोड़ का आपने लाख करोड़ का आपने रिकवरी कर ली है. It's 56-60% रिकवरी within this 2 years period में आ गई है. Now there are, it doesn't mean कि frauds are not happening. Frauds are happening, but recovery process is also happening, and lenders are able to recover much more than what was earlier. Second thing, the process which was started to identify non-performing assets, it's also helped in identify such defaulters as early as possible so that corrective action can be taken. But thieves are always one step ahead of the police, and then they find out some other means, LC or some other means, like what is happening in cases.
तो मुझे एज ए इकोनॉमिस्ट अगर हम उस तरीके से देखें तो जो सबसे बड़ा जो एक डिसीजन था वो प्रोफेसर रघुराम राजन के टाइम पे कि जो आपके रिसीवेबल्स आप दिखा रहे हो उनको उसने फिर नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट्स के तरीके से दिखाया. दैट इज़ वन स्टेप. और दूसरी बात जो 2016 में जेटली साहब के टाइम पे जो ये नॉर्म्स आए और ये जो रेगुलेशंस आए, these two are the basically crux of the entire situation in recovering the loans. What do you say?
Yes. See, first thing, we have to identify the problem. There are first thing. Second thing, to take corrective action to rectify that problem. So these 2 steps were taken. Like NPA were earlier also, but we were not having a time frame or not proper guidelines when and how quickly it is to be done. So Professor Raghuram Rajan has forced banks to take that action, and it is streamlined. Now it is a continuous process. I will not say this is one-time process. Now RBIs keep reviewing their process and then keep asking banks to, change this to into. So internal audit, external audit, these are the process which are happening, and taking up as early as identify such defaults and take corrective action. So this is to identify the problem. In this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act, which is IBC, is a very, very important decision. I will say it helps India's rating into improving its working, ease in working kind of a thing, because this is a game changer kind of a thing, I will say, because now bank or lenders know that they can take an action and they will get their money of whatever amount in a reasonable time. It is not unlimited, unreasonable, and no, sightseeing in that. So knowing the problem and action to recover, these are the 2 steps, which is very, very good thing happens in the banking sector. And it helps in banking health improvement. there are defaulters like Nirav Modi and other things. So for that, RBI has now started with a new system, which you must have heard, that all banks are sharing data of the loan. So that it shouldn't happen that a person taken a loan from bank A and bank B is not knowing what is the situation. So all this thing, internal sharing of data will help identify such willful defaulters, or those regular who's changing their name, company's name, from A to B, B to C, and then banks are not in a position to identify. But this kind of a exchange internally between banks and banks will help to reduce such default. I will not say stop, but to keep minimum as much as possible. So RBI and others are doing their good job.
थैंक यू गिरीश जी, ये तो बहुत ही वंडरफुल साइट है। ये जो बाद वाला पार्ट आपने कवर किया ना कि बैंक्स क्या क्या एक्शन अभी ले रहे हैं और रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म कैसे टाइट हुई है, अब ऑफ कोर्स पॉलिटिकल विल भी चाहिए होती है इन सब चीज़ों के लिए।
बिल्कुल
तो
बिल्कुल, पॉलिटिकल विल के बगैर इट कांट बी
it
पॉसिबल।
cannot be. Thank you so much. It's really a
थैंक यू
pleasure
सर।
hosting you. Thank you. This Vajpayee was very explicit. System has changed. There should not be any doubt about it. That banking system, as far as loans to the big business people are concerned, that system has changed. Now it is very difficult to take the banks for a ride. Thank you so much. I will see you in next video. Please like, share and subscribe.